I'm Ken Napzok, and here's a look at some of the stories making the world spin this week. Big week for Republicans. If a big week means being embarrassed on multiple fronts like a convoy of truckers heading to the border to defend America, only to find no one actually there. First, let's start with the de facto leader of the Grand Old Party and alleged poster child for Depends undergarments, Donald J. Trump. This week, a three-judge panel from the U.S. Court of Appeals in the D.C. District ruled that the former president does not have immunity from any crimes he may have committed while in office. And we're talking real crimes, not the ones against us for those tennis shorts. And that is not me shaming his physical build. It's me shaming those shorts for failing to constrain his physical build. If I wore those to the mall, I'd be asked to leave the food court. Again. The three-judge panel, not to be confused with the legendary band Three Doors Down, issued this statement on the ruling. We cannot accept former President Trump's claim that a president has unbounded authority to commit crimes that would neutralize the most fundamental check on executive power, the recognition and implementation of election results. They added, former President Trump's stance would collapse our system of separated powers by placing the president beyond the reach of all three branches. That's right. The judges went with the if he's right, the very fabric of our specially woven government blanket would unravel before our very eyes, sick burn. Trump, of course, is handling it well. I'm sure the wannabe king of America is not sitting on his porcelain throne with a vein ready to burst out straight through his stressed-out forehead like an alien in some dude's chest cavity. In fact, Steve Chung, the Trump campaign spokesman, told us all that his boss, quote, respectfully disagrees with the D.C. court's decision and will appeal it. See? He respectfully disagrees. We're all good here. Now, some are saying this whole charade is still a bit of a victory for Trump. The delay was the point. Trump's legal team, which is the equivalent of the Washington Generals to reality's Harlem Globetrotters, has until February 12th to prepare requests for the Supreme Court to hear this case and block the ruling, or ask that the full 11-judge D.C. District Court of Appeals reconsider the case. But whether or not any of those judiciary bodies rule in his favor, the January 6th trial that was set for March 4th has already been delayed indefinitely. And if he happens to win the 2024 election like the ghost of Toby Keith would want, then he would be able to dodge prosecution as the sitting president, including quite possibly granting himself a presidential pardon. All things to consider when you cast your ballot in November. We'll keep you updated on the future of America. Though the sport of policymaking has its wrinkles, complications, and without a doubt gamemanship from all who participate in it, you've got to hand it to the Republicans in the House of Representatives. Despite a very, very slim majority rule, they managed to bungle several votes this week and, in keeping with the brand, failed to move any of their ideas and plans forward. As in, they couldn't get one big win, making them the early 90s Buffalo Bills of Congress. Now, this is all ongoing, as there will be revotes and additional attempts to push this all through. But on Tuesday alone, the Republicans in the House suffered embarrassing defeats in their attempt to begin the impeachment process of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas over the handling of the border crisis. Republicans are now willing to kick down the line to help Trump in his election campaign, and in their gambit of pushing through financial aid for Israel and their quest for total victory over Hamas that may or may not include the complete annihilation of Palestinians. As shrug, we'll see. The impeachment vote included some drama and chess playing as the Democrats wheeled in a shoeless and hospital scrub-wearing Texas Representative Al Green straight from the hospital where he was recovering from surgery, proving that once again, life in D.C. is just one long episode of Veep. All this had followed the GOP House sinking the border deal negotiated by Republican James Lankford that saw many compromises from the Biden administration, an example perhaps of how policymaking works, with some calling it a more conservative deal than anything passed during the Trump administration on border safety. But that wasn't enough for the Trump zealots currently running around the halls of government. And again, the wheels of government will keep spinning. They win one day, they lose another day, and we all keep paying more for eggs every day. But the Mike Johnson-led Congress seems hell-bent on getting nothing done, as if Johnson has installed the Covenant Eyes app in his own party and no one wants to even move, let alone whack one out. We should all judge our government officials by the policies and laws put in place to help the least of us. That's what politics is about at its core, but Mike Johnson and his merry band of congressmen and senators next door just want to rant, rave, and win a culture war that time will always guarantee they lose. And in the meantime, Ukraine is running out of ammo, the world is laughing at us, and a March 1st deadline for another budget deal threatens another government shutdown. Go get him, Mikey. If God truly chose you to lead, perhaps we now know the Supreme Being is fallible, or is trying to make some other point you'll never understand. In entertainment news, in a gross and very public misunderstanding of what the First Amendment protects us from, former MMA fighter and reciter of lines written in scripts for her Gina Carano has filed a lawsuit against the Walt Disney Corporation and its subsidiary Lucasfilm Limited, alleging that she was wrongfully terminated in 2021 from her job as portraying the character Cara Dune on The Mandalorian. This because, according to her 59-page lawsuit, she dared share her own opinions on the world that went against the narrative of the woke mind virus, and she, quote, stood up to the online bully mob who demanded her compliance with their extreme progressive ideology. You know, the extreme progressive ideology is called empathy and compassion. The lawsuit also says her male co-stars like Pedro Pascal and the now late Carl Weathers were not fired for sharing their political views, but she was, in another complete misunderstanding of what she was doing versus what they were doing. The lawsuit is financially backed by Elon Musk and his company X.com, home to some of the world's finest racists, sexists, and Nazis. If you recall, Carano began to use the social media platforms to post COVID vaccine conspiracies, mock transgender people and the use of pronouns, and later compared being a conservative to being a Jew in Nazi Germany. Each take more and more dumb, witless, careless, compassionless, and destructive to the people in the group she was speaking out against. Star Wars fans who had once so readily embraced her in 2019 discovered how much she did not represent the very tenets that make up the moral center of Star Wars and wanted her gone, and the fervor around her led to Disney and Lucasfilm cutting ties with their employee. Days later, her agency would do the same, as companies, for better or worse, have the right to do. That is not cancel culture. That is not a violation of the First Amendment. That is you, Gina, being bad for business, not unlike you being bad for pretty much any scene you're in. Eugene Debs, running for president in 1920 from a federal prison cell because he was imprisoned for speaking out against U.S. involvement in World War I, is an example of a violation of First Amendment rights. Lenny Bruce, being arrested on stage for saying words deemed offensive to the moral panic-filled government of his day, is an example of a violation of First Amendment rights. Vladimir Putin, having all of his rivals poisoned, pushed out of windows, or blown up in airplanes, is an example of actual cancel culture. Shane Gillis, being fired from SNL for previous racist comments he made and then coming back to host the very same show, is not an example of these, nor is Gina's sad tale of being asked several times by her employer to stop what she was doing. But, backed by Elon Musk and fueled by the legions of thick-skulled cultural warriors who lined up behind her after her firing, Gina Carano's lawsuit presses on. She's seeking damages and a court order recasting. That's right, she wants her job back because starring in Ben Shapiro movies is not quite cutting it, especially when that fan base doesn't like their female characters strong, or in most cases, female. No comment from Lucasfilm or Disney. And in our final story of the week, this coming Sunday, Kansas City and San Francisco will square off in the NFL's big championship game of a super variety. Normally, for this game, the world's attention is on the athletic drama playing out in front of them. What celebrity will sell their soul for a high-paying commercial, and what kind of shark will be dancing in the halftime show? But this year is different, and you know where we're going with this. The world will be watching to see if Taylor Swift can make it from her gig in Tokyo, Japan the night before to Las Vegas, Nevada, to be at the game to completely ruin everything for her boyfriend's team and recruit voters for the deep state candidate Joe Biden. Sportsbooks and gambling apps like Fan Addiction and Bet Kings have the over-under on her arrival time being 2 hours before kickoff, her screen time on the broadcast itself being 44 seconds, and the number of voters registered in the concession stand line at 35,000. Bet accordingly and responsibly. I'm Ken Napzok for Anytime, and that was the news.